Here's one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen. Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin The Bizkit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
So when am I coming in to do the traffic and the weather?
Man, whenever you want, as long as we have you here in Winnipeg, I'm more than happy to facilitate you hanging out just to kind of pass the time until you find a new gig. But let me tell you, following your career and being part of this this podcast is wearing me out more than when I was raising toddlers, man. Oh my God, like what a it's just been an absolute whirlwind. Like, this is crazy.
You know when you watch like Animal Planet and you see like an animal just about to get like eaten alive and you have like this like anxiety, like, oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen, but like you're not actually in it. That's probably what you're feeling through my career.
Kind of, a little bit, yeah. I mean, outside of us recording, I mean, we stay in contact, obviously, via text message mostly, and just getting the updates. And, you know, last week after we record a podcast, the very next day, you're like, hey, looks like we can record some podcasts in person next week. And it's like, what happened? You know, like,
what was the text I sent you? It was like, hey man, I'm not messing around. I actually just got released. And you're like, no way. I was like, yeah, I'm serious. I actually just got released.
Like, believe me, like, and I think I speak for everyone when I kind of am trying to piece together what happened in between this big move from upstate New York down to the Gulf of Mexico, and everyone's excited, team's excited, you're excited, I'm excited, fans are excited, and then when you literally yanked out of your sails.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of things that don't make sense still to me, which we'll get to later on the show, but I did have a couple one-liners that I've been sitting on these for a while.
Okay, right? Well, yeah, I know you had a long road trip to get all the way back up to the heart of the continent, so I'm sure you had some time to ponder a few here and there.
I actually did. We'll talk about the back-to-back 15-hour days driving and whatnot, but here's a question for you, and this is for the Winnipeg folks. What is going to get back into action first, the Arlington Bridge or my career?
Well, I'm going to go with your career because the Arlington Bridge is done. It's a Spirit Halloween at this point.
Can you give the breakdown of the Arlington Bridge? I know you did on the radio show the other day, but just about like the process of trying to figure out what was wrong with this and then just taking it out of commission.
Yeah, so this is like a 100-year-old bridge. Apparently, once upon a time, it may or may not, the details on when, where, when, and how it was apparently constructed somewhere over in the UK, and it may have been possibly earmarked for the River Nile, and apparently it didn't, and then it was on the auction block, and then it showed up in Winnipeg to go over the rail yards, and it was served really, really well for 100 years, and they did a feasibility study on it. They went, that thing's falling apart, and they went, yep, it's falling apart, and they said, we're going to fix it? Well, I don't know, we'll get back together in 5 years and figure it out. And they never did anything about it. And then they went back and looked at it and went, whoa, we need to shut this down like now. Like now. Like the metal is actually rotting. Like they don't even allow pedestrian traffic going over this thing. Like nobody, nada. It's done. Done.
I think that bridge and I have a lot in common now. You've kind of
No, your metal is not rotting.
I'm falling apart.
No, we nursed you back to health with the hip surgery.
Yes, and that is one thing too. Like with this whole process, and we'll get into the nitty gritty details of this later on the show. But I've been talking to you a lot about building character. What kind of man are you? Facing adversity head on, and using hockey as the measuring stick to life. And God, when I talk the talk, God says, all right, let's walk the walk. Let's see what you're really made of. All right, let's send you home. Let's release you from a team for the first time ever and see what you're actually made of. Well, I'm going to send you from the Gulf of Mexico, where it was plus 21 when I left, to -5, -10 in Winnipeg, sleeping in your car overnight.
It wasn't that cold. We haven't been any colder than, well, maybe when you got home, yeah. But it's fine now. We're like hovering around freezing, which is good for this time of year.
And dry, and cold, and dark. And we also appreciate the fact that we talked about there being no snow here, and the second I show up, the snow arrives.
You brought it with you.
I brought the bad weather from Watertown to Mississippi, and now I brought the snow from somewhere into Winnipeg.
Yeah, well, listen, we were overdue, that's for sure. Well, we have nothing more than a mild dusting here on the streets of Winnipeg, which always makes it a little more entertaining. But here, you're home. You're home.
I definitely didn't think when we were here in August recording episodes that we'd be sitting here November 30th, November 31st, recording an episode in person.
There's no such thing as November 31st, but okay.
December 1st, sorry.
Yeah.
That FPHL education is shining through right there. You know what the scariest thing is? I'm still not the dumbest guy in the league. There's guys with worse education than me.
Oh, I believe that. Listen, when it comes to hockey IQ, that's the only thing that really matters sometimes. But I'm curious to know what was going through your head on that drive from Biloxi, Mississippi, all the way up to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
That's a good question. What was going through my mind? Well, first off was let's not run out of gas because that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think just like what's next, like what's coming up next, like in my career with the podcast, with the vlog. You and I have talked a lot in private the past couple months just about like me planning for the future because hockey will come to an end realistically sooner rather than later. And although I do want to go out on my own terms, this could potentially be something that, ends things for me. Realistically speaking, you never know. Like, today could be the end, tomorrow could be the end. It's a day-to-day thing. And thinking about what is next. Doing the weather and the traffic for you is number one. That was the first priority. I think that's the first thing I texted you about once I got home was when am I coming in?
Yeah.
But also, like, how am I going to get back on the horse? When am I going to start skating again? How do I stay sharp in case an opportunity comes? Talking to my new agent, Nick Graham, shout out to him, about, like, where are we going to go in Europe? Are we going to go to Spain? Are we going to go to France? Are we going to go to Germany, the Netherlands? Are we going to send me to some weird country, like over in Bulgaria, the Bulgarian Superliga? Like, where am I going to go? So a lot of questions, and to be honest, a lot that still don't have answers with, but just riding it out and answering the question of how do I become the best version of myself and the best man that I can become? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing you get to keep. And I know it's cliche, and we've talked about it on the podcast for the last couple months. When this is all done, you don't get to keep being a hockey player. You only rent that. The only thing you really get to take is who you are as a person. Who did you develop into? Were you a shitbag or were you a good man at the end of it? And that's kind of the main thought that's been running through my mind.
Well, listen, I can speak on behalf of, and keep in mind there's probably 5 years to my senior and 5 years to my junior as far as the wheelhouse of guys that I know that went on to play hockey after junior. And I'm running out at the tail end of the guys that on the lower end who are there's still a couple of them that are wrapping up their careers in their late 30s. And some of them, God love them, they're still able to carve out a career. But what I've noticed over the past almost decade now, and this goes for professional sports in general, and guys that I've known, but some of them have an easy time transitioning out of the game, and some of them have a really hard time transitioning out of the game. And it's something that you touched on a few minutes ago when it's, what do I do next? What do I do next? And what I've noticed, and this is not a indication of what you're going to go through, everyone goes through their own journey, obviously, and I still don't think you're totally done. I think you've got a lot of good years left in you if you choose to pursue that.
And that's the big thing, though. I ultimately decide when I retire. No, there's nobody in the comment section. There's nobody in the world. I decide when I hang up. I decide if I continue to play, and I decide if I'm good or if I'm not. It's only me who decides that, nobody else.
Right, and you got to keep in mind that a lot of times you skip over, and most guys have skipped over that job at Best Buy, right? I mean, you got a little taste of what it's like to work in the real world, and then work a 9 to 5 and punch the clock. A lot of guys didn't. They went straight from playing through high school and then junior and then right into professional, whatever that looked like. But it's on the way out. It's only in the last few years that most guys start thinking about, what am I going to do next? More often than not, they'll try and stay inside the industry, whether it be broadcasting. That seems to be a popular one. There's some that will try, through coaching. And the percentage of people that are actually able to stay attached to the game somehow are it's a very small percentile. And then the guys that don't, they have a hard time transitioning because I think a lot of times, too, they're so used to over the course of, 10, 15, however many years it is, oh, you're blank from blank. I used to watch you on hockey, and you get used to that. And then when they say, what are you doing now? And it's like, oh, I'm working with a roofing company. It's that look that people give that what I've been able to figure out is like, oh, because people always expect you to be like, oh, but you play professional hockey and you make a lot of money now. And you should be able to retire and do whatever you want because that's the dream of most people who are working 9 to 5s is you get to retire and have enough money to do whatever you want. Not go back to, mixing concrete or working construction or doing whatever it may be. And I think a lot of guys have that fear of if I'm not playing hockey or if I'm not playing professional sports or I'm not involved in that industry, then what am I?
A lot of us are mixing concrete before and after hockey, so.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, okay.
There we go. The old cement mixer.
But, I mean, listen, the ones that I have seen transition well are guys that kept themselves busy within reason while they were still playing, and you doing the vlog and this podcast and the video editing and the drone shots and all that kind of stuff, that's going to open up a lot of doors, especially the way society's moving, where a lot of guys who are sitting around after practice and not doing a whole lot and playing video games, and if that's your thing, that's totally cool. I've seen guys make some pretty good money playing video games online, playing in Halo tournaments, so I ain't crap. I ain't throwing shade at that at all, but it seems to be the guys that are like, I have hockey and this, that seem to have an easier time transitioning out of the game.
Well, I think I want to be very clear for everybody listening to the video version of the show. I'm not retiring. I want to be very clear. I'm not retiring.
Right.
We're just waiting for something to happen, which we'll get into in a second. But over the past couple of years, I've been developing these skill sets with work on the podcast. I mean, you look from like the beginning days of the show with Pat Shea, where it was just like a Zoom call. Audio was horrible. We had no idea how to structure things. To now, where the past 3 episodes, you and I have put up 40,000 listens between Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Like 40,000 people. Well, obviously there's a couple of like a little bit of like a lapping over. Like some people listen to all 3 episodes, but 40,000 listens in the past 3 episodes is insane. And that's the skill sets that we've worked on for trying to build a podcast, trying to market it properly, doing the clips, producing it, all that type of stuff. On top of marketing myself in the vlog, the cinematography, the storytelling, all these skill sets, and also the off ice too, of building the character that I am, building the man who I want to be, and taking it outside of the game afterwards. So I'm building these skill sets that I do believe, out of everybody in the FPHL, I'm going to be the best suited for life after hockey to anybody else. You know, in Motor City, in Watertown, in the short period I was in Port Huron, and in Mississippi, a good amount of the guys that I played with would give me a hard time that after practice, all I would do is just I sit on my laptop, I work on the vlog, I work on the podcast. Why don't you come hang out? Why don't you come do this? And I try to mix a little bit of both. But at the end of the day, I'm focused on trying to build something. I want to build the podcast. I want to build the vlog. And those skill sets of putting in 8, 12, 14-hour shifts to produce the stuff that we do will ultimately pay off in the long run when I do retire, when that day does come, which, again, is not today or anytime soon.
Well, and listen, I'll tell you a brief anecdote here that kind of relates to your story. When I was in college, and I've talked about this before, how I worked 2 jobs while I was in college, and they both had to do with my industry. And I was living with 3 other guys my first year, and I remember walking in one time, and I had a pizza that I had gotten from the pizza joint and a 6-pack of beer because I had a little bit of time, and I didn't have to work that night. And my one roommate goes, "Man, this isn't fair. You've always got money in your pocket, and you always got money for food and beer and stuff." And I looked at him, and I looked at the time, I'm like, "Don't you have class? Like, if you're not going to go to class, get a job. Like, go work. Quit complaining about money. Quit going through the couch. Like, I'm working my ass off here, so I can't afford to have a case of beer and not have you complain about it. If you're not going to go to class, work." And so he did. He ended up dropping out of school, and he went back to work. And now he's making a huge amount of money working up at the tar sands in Fort McMurray.
Is he mixing concrete?
Something like that.
Cement mixing.
Yeah. A little bit of bitumen up there, if you will. But listen, it's the old story of the grasshopper and the ant. I'm sure you're familiar with that one.
I am not. Please explain it, though.
The ants are working, getting ready for winter, getting the ant hill ready to go, while the grasshopper is laughing at them, going, "It's a beautiful day outside." He's playing his violin. He's like, "You guys are crazy working. Why would you do this?" Winter rolls around. Grasshopper is out on the cold, doesn't have any food, squandered his entire time that he could to get ready for the winter. And, of course, the ants invite him in saying, "Hey, you learned your lesson, but next time you're going to be helping us out, getting us ready for winter." So you can laugh and go, "What are you doing? Working on the vlog, working all that?" I'm working on my future.
I'm trying to build, again, like I love doing this. I love sharing, like I love having a conversation with you every single week, whether it's in person and you're wearing the blazer, which, by the way, Dave is looking really good if you're in the video version of the show.
My wife may or may not have given me a little talking to saying, "Listen, you guys are getting some decent numbers now. Can you at least take the toque off and put on something a little more presentable?" So, honey, this one's for you.
How about the fact I've been wearing a blazer in almost every single episode of the vlog? I didn't get the memo for today, and I'm not wearing a blazer.
Yeah, well, listen, that's the way it goes. You're guaranteed at least one blazer per episode.
Well, early and often, as we've been saying for years. But
shout out to my old junior A team, the Lloydminster Blazers, who are no longer called the Blazers now; they're the Bobcats. But there you go.
Shout out to them. One thing worth mentioning, and this is something that's been in the comment section the last little bit. People were asking about us not talking about this being released last week. And also the vlog being behind. So, like, why don't I talk about the vlog real quick?
Well, I've been giving you crap about the vlog. You're like, "Yeah, we're 3 weeks behind. I'm catching up," and I get it. You're really, really busy. So they don't exactly line up.
There's a couple strategic reasons why the vlog is behind, though. So first off, I'm a one-man crew, like we talked about. I edit, I film, I produce, I do the thumbnails. Like everything from the vlog comes from me and this laptop right here. So if I can stagger the vlog to be on an every Sunday or Sunday, Wednesday upload, that gives me a little bit of wiggle room for when I can edit, and which I usually do in batches, and then like a full day, I'll sit there for like 8, 10, 12 hours and just bang everything out. And then when I can take some time off for like filming stuff. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing this on top of skating every single day, like morning skate, travel, game days, all this type of stuff. So if I can back myself up for an episode or 2 or 3 or 4, then I have a little bit more wiggle room. If something goes wrong, if something happens, if I have to do a whole road trip across the entire continent to come back home to Winnipeg, then I'm not totally buried. And also too, the podcast is the exclusive, so if you want the full up-to-date story, just listen to the podcast.
Right.
The vlog will be behind for those reasons. There's also the strategicness of if I uploaded 3 videos in 3 days, yeah, it's in real time, but then you get no videos for like 2 weeks. Wouldn't you want every Sunday and Wednesday as opposed to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then nothing for 2 weeks? There's radio silence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and keep in mind for those that, and I saw the comments too, people kind of saying like, "Hey, you should have been a little more transparent about this. We recorded on a Tuesday. You got released on a Wednesday. We had
Monday and a Tuesday.
Monday to Tuesday, thank you. And we had a quick conversation about How are we going to handle this? And you were kind of like, I got to figure out how to get back to Winnipeg. If I'm going back to Winnipeg or where I'm going, I said, cool, then we'll talk about it whenever you figure out what you're going to do. So outside of, jumping on social media, which I know you're very active on as well, and not wanting to try to screw up the vlog so much, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Believe me when I tell you, I know you, and I'm trying to push you and pull you in different ways as far as, trying to keep things scoped down to what we're going to talk about. This was the most logical way to do it.
And like we said, we recorded the episode. It was already in the bank. It was an hour long. We talked a lot of good stuff. And all of a sudden, I have to pack up my entire life. I have to figure out how am I going to get home, because it's not the 1800s and you can't take a train home from Biloxi, Mississippi to Winnipeg anymore. I got to get the rental car. I got to get hotels booked. I got to figure out
Why can't you take a train from Biloxi to Winnipeg? I'm sure you could. This wouldn't be a direct line.
The train, if I was going to be, it would be probably over $2,000. And it would be New Orleans to New York to Toronto, Toronto to Winnipeg, which probably I wouldn't be here for another 2 more weeks.
Right.
That was the route that I took. And again, Joe Pace gave me a hard time. Dude, it's not the 1800s anymore. You can get a rental car. It's fine. Right? So that would have been the route. But I'm trying to get all that organized. I'm trying to talk to my agent. What are we doing? I don't know what to do. The last thing on my mind is, you know what? We recorded a really good episode, but let's scrap that and re-record it. Unfortunately, I hope the audience understands that this isn't the full-time thing. Like the full-time thing, I don't just sit around here editing the podcast all day. I'm actually living the life of a minor pro hockey player as well. So please have a little bit of forgiveness for me if you're watching the video version, that uploading exactly in real time isn't ideal or isn't always possible.
Isn't always feasible, yeah, especially with your schedule.
Especially like the episode goes up on Sunday, the full edit has to be done, the episode has to be processed, uploaded. It's a 4K master file. We're talking a 300 gigabyte episode of the podcast. Clips have to be done, thumbnails have to be done. I can't do it all Saturday night and have it ready to go for Sunday. So again, please just be a little bit of understanding when the podcast is maybe not as up to date as you would like.
It's as close as we can get it, though.
We're trying our best. We're a 2-man crew here. I do the producing. In this case, Dave's doing the producing of the audio. But we're doing our best to make the podcast happen. So thank you for those listening. Again, all 40,000 people that have listened the past 3 episodes. I'm sure this episode may probably be the biggest one we ever do, since we're talking about me getting released from the Seals, which we'll get to in a second. But first, if you're going to get released, and if you're going to do a back-to-back 15-hour road trip across the country, you're going to need a pair of Sheath Underwear. Reason being, your dick and your balls are, trust me, I know, they are going to stick to the side of your leg. You're going to be farting in the seat. Everything's going to be sticking to the side of your leg. It's going to be disgusting when you get to the hotel.
How can you tell when somebody's been on a long road trip by themselves?
That's why.
That pair of underwear came in pretty handy, I bet.
Yeah, and when you're sitting in the driver's seat, and all throughout the entire cab, you can smell the muskiness of you sitting there for hours and hours on end. But when you wear Sheath underwear, it makes it a little bit more doable, because Sheath has their dual pouch technology, which is a separated, segregated compartment for your dick and your balls. They don't stick to the side of your leg. They don't bat wing either. It is awesome. They have bamboo mesh technology, which is cooling, especially in the winter. It's awesome. Keep everything nice and aerated. And right now, when you go to sheathunderwear.com, there's a link in the video description for that if you're on the YouTube version of the show, or the Apple Podcast, Spotify notes as well. You go to sheathunderwear.com, the code BIZKIT, 69, BIZKIT 69 will get you 20% off of the greatest underwear money has ever bought in you. I promise you that.
Yeah, it's the best technology you can get out there. Take it from a guy who's worn a lot of underwear.
And they have the same design as the card from The Shining, which we confirmed after.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I texted Robert. I was like, have you ever seen The Shining? He's like, yeah, I modeled the underwear after the carpet in the show.
Boom. Knew it.
Nail in the head.
I knew it. That's a great idea.
But
More carpet.
Sheath has been with us since day one, too. So if you want to support the show, pick up a pair of underwear. It's awesome. Holiday season, too. Christmas. Get dad a pair. Get your boyfriend a pair if you're a lady. Get yourself a pair. Treat yourself this holiday season.
They got some lady stuff, too, for the upper torso. Yeah, great stuff on there.
And some panties, too, if you're a lady. Man, all the gentlemen out there, get your lady a Sheath sports bralette and shorts. She'll love it, I guarantee it.
Moving on.
Yes, we are, both literally and figuratively.
Because, listen, I don't want to give Corey Perry any ideas. We'll get to that in a second.
Leave my mother out of this. Dorothy Mantooth is a saint.
Now, listen, I would like to... Can we just touch on that real quick so we can say we talked about it and then move on?
What, my mother being a saint, Dorothy Mantooth,
both,
and Corey Perry?
Both. Corey Perry, for anyone who... And listen, I had mentioned it saying I do not endorse this, but the rumor was it was juicy and it was false. It was completely false, and anyone who suggested that it was... the truth, you were wrong. You were barking up the wrong tree, which is unfortunate. But from the sounds of it, Corey Perry is going to be going into some sort of rehab, talking about his alcohol problems and his mental health problems. And apparently, from the sounds of it, there was a team event that with a lot of corporate sponsors that were there. He may have had a little too much to drink, and did something a little inappropriate that was enough to completely void his contract.
We actually got some exclusive video on the video version of the show. What if you ever seen Blades of Glory?
Yeah, of course.
When Will Ferrell, Chaz Michaels about to get suspended, Nancy Kerrigan, you an official here? You officially giving me a boner.
Oh. Again, you have much fonder memories of that movie than I do.
Oh, let it rain down on me.
I was just waiting for John Heater to do his dance on stage.
Michaels, you drunk? No, this ought to do it. Shatters the bottle on the wall.
Listen, in all honesty, it's really unfortunate that Corey Perry, at 38 years old, likely won't get another chance to play in the NHL. And for a guy who, let's be honest, he was a rat. He was a rat on the ice, and he was a really good rat on the ice. Actually, if I had my choice between him or a Brad Marchand, it would be a very tough call because they're both really good at their jobs. But it's unfortunate that after a Stanley Cup and an MVP and a gold medal, that his career is going to end on this kind of note. It's unfortunate.
Stanley Cup champion, though.
Hey, what?
Stanley Cup champion.
Stanley Cup champion. Can't take that away from him. And on the other end of the coin on that one, for all the rumors that were going around, just imagine for a second that you're an 18-year-old kid, you're brand new in the league, everything is literally whipping by you, and people are throwing microphones in front of your face, and all of a sudden they throw something in going, hey, we hear the guy that was brought in to mentor you, maybe hooking up with your mom. How do you feel about that? Like, imagine, of all the things you thought you would have to worry about getting into a league, that should be the last thing ever on your mind. And I know there is a laundry list of speculation out there and stories about players and wives and girlfriends, and the professional sports doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to fidelity. Mm-hmm. But I feel so bad for Connor Bedard to even having that in his mind for a moment, or his mom or his dad. Like, it's horrible. It's horrible to think that he would even have to think about that for a second.
Could you imagine?
There's one thing, and listen, will say this, I got a hard time in certain levels of hockey, when one would show up at the game, they're like, whoa, did you see the blonde up in the stands? I'm like, God, it's my mother. Wheels, your mom's hot. That was one thing. But to even suggest that something like that, it's just, I honestly feel bad for Connor Bedard, and I hope that he is able to Taylor Swift this one and shake it off. I really do, because, man, what else can you throw at this kid at this point? Like, what else can you do?
Can I tell you a funny story kind of like on that lines, actually? So there was a team in the Fed that I was playing for, and I'm sitting on the bench.
You played in the Fed?
A couple of years. A couple of years. Short little cup of coffee. 4 games, 6 teams. But so I'm sitting on the bench, opening the door, and I keep looking behind me. I'm like, God, this blonde is like really, really hot. And I'm making eye contact with her like purposefully, because I'm trying to hope if I make eye contact with her enough times, she'll look on the back of my jersey and see the last name, Google me, send me an Instagram message. It's worth a lot more than you would think. Wow. So in the second intermission, go in the room, one of the guys sat me, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name. I was like, "Hey, brother, man, do you see that blonde behind the bench? Like, man, what a good-looking girl. The things I would do to sniff her farts." He's like, "Trav, it's my girlfriend." Oh, no. I was like, "Oh, dude, no, are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, that's my girlfriend, and that's her friend beside her, the brunette." I'm like, "No, dude, I didn't mean what I just said." He's like, "No, it's okay. At least it confirms I have a hot girl."
If you can take it in stride like that, because a lot of guys wouldn't. Get your eyes off my girl.
Yeah, that could have gone really bad. But he was a very good sport.
You avert your eyes. You avert your gaze, sir. Yeah, no, I listen. That's one. Well, that's one thing that I will always say is that pro athletes always have the best looking girls, hands down.
It's very, very true.
Yeah,
especially the Swedes.
Yeah, no kidding.
See, Carlson in not Eric Carlson.
William.
William Carlson? The Vegas Golden Knights.
Eric Carlson?
No. The other one. William Carlson?
Sure.
It's one of the Carlsons. He's dating Haley Ferguson, one of the former bachelorettes. Blonde, American girl.
Good pull.
Beautiful good-looking girl.
Yeah.
I think he may have one of the hottest girls. Also Eric Carlson. Anyway, we're moving on here. Enough media talk. I know we talked about before the show. We should leave that alone. Okay, so last week, we talked about going into Columbus, the post-game meal, right?
Right, yeah, and you got kicked out. You had a whole plate full of food, and they're like, yeah, you're not feeding us next week, so give us our food back.
So I told the guys about that, and I thought in my mind, I'm like, so if I walk out of here with the food, the guy's going to get mad. They're like, why did you take food? Dude, you didn't even play. You took food. You didn't bring anything back for us. I'm like, I'm gonna lay on the sword, the sheath of the sword, and I am not going to eat. I told the guys, they're like, dude, we hate the River Dragons. You should have taken you should have filled that thing up. I don't care if you're the only one, just taking everything. And I was like, I'm trying to be a team player. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like, if nobody else, if my team doesn't eat, I don't eat. And they wanted me to just raid the buffet.
Yeah, they just load it up in the bags and bring it back to the bus so we can snack on something on the way home. Well, hey, listen, you don't know what you don't know. You'll know for next time.
Yep. Next time we go to Columbus, raid the buffet.
Yeah,
noted.
Well, hey, listen, you may end up playing for them at some point, so you never know.
Well, I went to training camp there. A very short cup of coffee.
That's right. That was your first. Foray into the Federal League.
First taste, in the inaugural season. I will say this. I know we talked about it last time. Like the changes they've made in the last 4 years from the inaugural season to now, they're doing things right in Columbus. It's really cool to see just how much is developed. I mean, they're sponsored by Pepsi.
Wow.
Pepsi sponsors the Columbus River Day. They got a big sign. Pepsi loves Columbus. I'll throw the drone video on the video version of the show. Pepsi loves Columbus. Crazy.
We've been dancing around this a lot, but I think people are here for the main event here. So break it down. So the last time we talked, you were possibly looking at another start that week, and then the rug gets pulled from underneath you. So break it down.
Take it away.
What do you got?
All right. So this honestly came as a surprise to me because in my time in Mississippi, there was a lot of talk about asses in the seats, right? Like in the FPHL, we run off jersey sales and asses in the seats. That's what pays my salary. That's what pays for everything, for the bus, for you name it. Asses in the seats is what we care about. And we talked about putting on a good on-ice product. That's some of the lingo that we use in the locker room. The on-ice product is good. People will come. People will pay. And so we had this meeting actually on Monday after practice, just talking about asses in the seats, getting people to come to the rink.
Well, they always say the most expensive seat in the house is the empty one.
It's true because you're not making money on it.
Right.
And I get off the ice, get showered, and then I get called out of the room, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what have I said in the podcast last week that's going to get me in trouble?
Is that what you're thinking? Are you thinking, hey, maybe they're going to tell me when I'm going to start next?
There was that, but I honestly thought I was probably going to start in the Wednesday game because it was against a weaker team. Shep had just played back-to-back games and really got I don't want to use the word worked, but Shep Shep was exhausted. I mean, he had back-to-back 110 shots between two games. Like the guy was tired. Give him a break. So I thought I'd be getting that start probably. I usually think when I get called out into a meeting, it's usually for the podcast because if we're talking about asses in the seats, I'm the last guy you're going to release or cut.
Right.
And so I'm like, what did I say in the podcast last week? Them draining my bank account, would that maybe get me in trouble? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
The Visa gift cards?
Oh, the checks I had to cash. Oh, should I have said that? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think in my mind. I'm like, what have I said and what do I have to take ownership for? And it was just, hey man, I'm sorry. You got to go. We're releasing you today. And I was kind of like, what? We just talked about putting asses in the seats. You know what I mean? And I guess essentially it's a numbers game because we had Liam Murray, who was on call up to the Huntsville Havoc. He had just come back down. And even though he physically wasn't in the locker room, roster-wise, he has to take a spot. And then we just had Blake Wyrick, who just came back from pec and bicep surgery, and he was ready to go to start. So two guys coming in. Somebody had to go, although Liam actually just got traded today, or it might have been yesterday, from the Seawolves to Danbury. So now they're back down to two goalies. But it was, hey, man, it's a numbers game. We're going to be releasing you. We're really sorry. And I'm obviously asking for some constructive feedback because I'm a professional. And as a professional, I want to know, what can I do better? And you're not going to hurt my feelings. I want to know, what did I do wrong on the ice? What did I do wrong as a professional? What did I do wrong as a teammate and as a man? Please tell me. And to be honest, there really wasn't anything negative feedback-wise. I was told it was just a numbers game. And for those that are curious, Joe and I were on the exact same page with the Whitfield game. It's unfortunate that the game unfolded the way that it did and that defensively we did not show up. We got 61 shots. Mm-hmm. It sucks, but somebody has to wear it. And Shep is our starting goalie. And as me being the new guy who is the backup goalie, unfortunately, that is my job to wear that and wear it all 8 goals and take that beating if the team hasn't shown up. And that's my job. I take full ownership of that. We talked about it. I think Joe faulted me for 1 goal. The rest was on the team. I fault myself for 2. I think the rest are finding ways to make saves. But as far as the rest go, everything else was positive as far as feedback goes. The team was nice enough to let me live in the team housing for the next week and kind of just figure out what I was going to do with my life. It was interesting because I'd never been released before. Right? We've gone through all this type of stuff. Columbus, Motor City, Watertown, 45 minutes.
You checked all the boxes. How can I get to another team? Traded? Expansion draft? You literally went through all the possible ways that you could get onto a different team.
I haven't signed a celebrity contract. That's an actual thing, too.
I've heard of those. Who actually just did that recently? Signed on for a 1-day deal.
I'm looking for more than a 1-day deal, by the way. Anybody who's watching, ideally.
That'd be the celebrity one. Oh, it was Mr. Beast. He signed with the... what team? Oh, yeah, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 1 day. Celebrity contract.
Wow. Yeah. I need one of those. But, I was very confused. I didn't think I'd be getting released anytime soon. I thought Joe Pace and I'd be the perfect marketing tandem to bring a lot of people to the Seawolves games, to bring a lot. I mean, just like the amount of kids that were bringing signs like with my name on it in Mississippi, and I only dressed for one home game, was awesome. I mean, there was one message I got. There was this little boy. He was like 10 years old. And he came to the game. He brought a sign, "Trav, I love you," which is awesome. I was trying to throw him pucks after, like during warm-ups. Actually, this is kind of embarrassing. He's in the glass, and he's like, you can tell like he wants a puck. So I'm taking the puck. I'm trying to throw it. I missed. I hit the glass about 3 times, and I'm throwing it. I'm throwing it. It was like almost like Peter in Family Guy when he's trying to scoop the frog up with a box against the wall, like 30. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I can find that on YouTube and put that on the video version of the show. But I finally gave him the puck, and we get a picture after the game. Really nice kid. His dad was like, "Thank you for being a good mentor to him. He's so passionate about hockey." And I get a message, a day or two after, because the release goes live on the Fed website, and he's like, "Dude, like my son's in tears. Like my son, like he just wants to like see you play." And I'm like, this is why I love playing the game, to like change a kid's life like that, to change, like just to bring so much emotion to like a kid to be so affected by this is like, I don't know, it just makes my heart kind of melt. You know what I mean? Like for those types of kids. So stuff like that sucks. It's unfortunate.
From the 10-year-olds who are going to miss you at the side of the rink to the 40-year-olds who want to give you a kiss outside the rink after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in between there that I think are feeling that same way, regardless of what the emotions are. I'm curious to know, because listen, all it takes is one injury. All it takes is one guy who blows out his knee, or needs hip surgery, or has a bone spur or something. And as we know, there's a lot of goaltending positions out there in the vast array of all the leagues that we have in this world. I don't think it's going to take too long. I think you're literally one phone call away from jumping on a plane somewhere.
If we're being honest, this has been an awful year for injuries. Like the only real injury call-up that I'm aware of is Liam Murray, who was a goalie for the Seawolves that just got traded. He got called up to Huntsville because the backup goalie slipped on a puck on warm-ups. He stepped on a puck, whatever hurt his groin. Like I need some goalies to get injured. I need some really bad things to happen to some other members of the goalie community. Now, I don't wish poor on anybody else, but I do hope that I get an opportunity to play.
Well, look, no different than you when you had to bow out last year and needed hip surgery. That gave somebody else an opportunity.
And he's still with the team in Motor City, so I'm sure he's very happy that I took, the season out to get my hip surgery. And, that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I mean, even I got released, and I really wanted to play for the Carolina Thunderbirds. I thought that'd be a fantastic spot to play. And I didn't call him. I messaged the general manager. I was like, "Hey, man, I just got released. Like, I can get in the rental car right now, come down and play for you guys, come do a PTO, whatever." They're like, "Dude, we just signed a guy like 2 hours ago." And I'm like, "No."
What are the odds?
Literally, like, of all the times to sign a guy and for me to get released, it couldn't be the other way around. Like, it's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And
right.
I will happily go to any team in the Fed. Obviously, I'm a free agent right now. I'm unemployed. I will work for my saves. Otherwise, I'll be doing weather and traffic on Dave's morning show in the meantime.
For free.
Dave's not paying me. I try to drive a hard bargain. He said, "No."
Hey, listen, you got a coffee before this show. Be happy with that.
Take what you can get. Right?
Now, out of curiosity, best case scenario, realistically, where do you want to play? I mean, is there a specific league? Is there a specific country, state, city?
Selfishly, I want to play games, right? Like I want to play games, whether it's in Spain, in France, in Germany, wherever, in Sweden, wherever. I mean, maybe Sweden's not going to happen, or Norway because of the visa situation and how much work and time would have to elapse for that to actually happen. But I want to play games, and if a Fed team called and said, "Hey, come for PTO, we'll make you the backup goalie. You play maybe 5 to 6 games the rest of the season. Open the door, be a good team glue guy in Danbury, Carolina, Elmira. I'm in. Tell me when, I'll come." That's what I'm looking forward to, because I know I know where I fall in the pecking order of things. I know maybe people may give me a hard time in the comment section. I know that I need to put in some time. I need to prove myself to my teammates and wait for an opportunity to present itself to get a nice streak of games and that opportunity to really solidify myself as a starting goalie. Because despite all the things that have happened, I believe I'm a damn good goalie in the Fed. And if you look at the pedigree of all the guys that have played in the Fed, and you ask them, they'll tell you the Fed is the hardest league in pro hockey to probably play in because there's no defensive structure. The money's in goals. You score goals, you get called up. You score goals, you get paid. And fights as well. Defense doesn't get you paid in the Fed. And that's why, again, we talked last week about how only 2 or 3 goalies run a 900 save percentage. Everybody else is in that 870, 880 because it's such a hard league to play in. So to say that I'm not a Fed caliber goalie, I absolutely am, and I can absolutely take a starting job if given a streak of games to get comfortable with that team and get used to that defensive structure and system.
How much of a gap is there? Because I've said this before. It was probably about a year ago, so I'll repeat myself. But the biggest difference in the American League and the National League is passing is better in the National Hockey League, and there are superstars in the National Hockey League. pretty much every top and second line in the American League could easily fill in on a third or fourth line on 90% of the NHL teams out there. So I'm curious to know what the gap is between the SP and the Fed.
I think every Fed team has that incredible shooter. In Motor City, Scott Koch and Declan Conway were those two guys. Even Derek Macma, they were those three guys that could beat me at any point in time. They challenged me every single day in practice, and they are SP caliber players. In Watertown, Tate Leeson was that guy. There's a reason why he was leading the league in points when I left, because he's got an unreal release and is so deceptive. In Mississippi, Joachim Nielsen, Swede by the way, and Yanni Lirakos. Yanni has the best release I've ever seen in the Fed. He just gets that puck off so hard, so fast, and so accurate, and he's so deceptive in it. Like, those are guys that can play in the SP. And there's so many good players in the Fed. The Fed doesn't get enough credit for the talent that there actually is, and again, why it's such a hard, hostile environment as a goaltender to come in and play in. But again, to reiterate, because I know that this is probably going to be the highest viewed episode we do in a very, very, very long time, if not ever.
That's why I dressed up.
And I didn't. If you're in the Fed and you need a goalie, I can get a rental car and come down at any point in time. I'm going to market myself as the available
Fed, SP, East Coast. I mean, at this point, I don't think you're going to be overly picky-choosy. You're just looking for a job, right?
First team that calls. That's what me and Nick, my agent, we talked about. First team that calls, hey, we'd like to take him.
Wait a sec. Is Nick the goalie also Nick the agent?
No, this is a different Nick. Nick Graham is
Okay.
my new agent. So first team that calls that is serious and wants me to come down, I'm coming down. That's it. So it's as simple as that. As far as leaving goes, so I got the rental car. I packed everything up in a very tight packed Jeep Grand Cherokee. Again, we'll put some video on the video version.
That's not bad. That's a good ride.
It was a good rental, and I will say the Mississippi Seawolves did cut me a nice check for $1,000 to cover my rental car and my gas from Watertown to Wytheville, and then from Biloxi back down to Winnipeg. And again, I'm very, very thankful and appreciative for that. So to the team, thank you very much, because that is that's the first time I've been promised money by a team and they've actually followed through on it.
There you go.
When they promised it originally, I was like, yeah, I've heard this before. Yeah, three biggest lies in pro hockey. The check's in the mail. You're only going down for 2 weeks.
Don't say the third one.
And the third we can't put live on the podcast. That's
don't say the third one. But it has something else to do with going down.
But they're the biggest lies in pro hockey. So the fact that the check did cash or clear, it's on hold because it was a U.S. check, but I did cash it, and they gave me the money for it. It was awesome. So that covered for the rental cars. So I drove 15 hours from Biloxi into St. Louis. Now, my mom hates that I did this, but I slept in the rental car that night. The hotels were going to be expensive no matter where I went. They're probably going to be like $250-ish. And I figured I'm tight on cash because the check's only going to cover the rental car. I'm trying to be very cognizant because the next little bit, again, I know we talked about this off the show, squirreling away money whenever you can. I don't know when my next game is. I don't know when my next contract, when my next check payment-wise is going to come. I don't know what's going to happen with the vlog or the podcast moving forward. I like to think I know, but you never truly know. So I just start squirreling away money whenever I can. So I'm going to sleep in the car tonight. The team paid for the rental car. I might as well use it as a hotel.
Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with sleeping in a car. I think we've all done that at one point in our lives. But where did you park it?
Walmart parking lot. And I'll tell you this. So I set up shop in the back because the Cherokee was pretty big. So I stacked everything up and on the passenger side seat. And I couldn't fall asleep. And then I ended up sitting on the fob around 2 a.m. and the car alarm starts going off.
Oh, no.
In the parking lot. So I'm out in my underwear and my socks in the freezing St. Louis cold. And then I figured to myself, I'm like, why don't I just put the seats down on the other way and lay in the driver's seat and lay it flat? And I passed out right away. I slept for like 3 hours and I was back on the road.
Perfect.
So I did that, and then I drove all the way down another 15 to Grand Forks, North Dakota, where I stopped at the luxurious Quality Inn. God bless. $90 a night.
Wonderful.
Not bad. Canadian, too.
Yeah.
It's a good deal.
But for the record, Grand Forks, North Dakota, 2-hour drive door to door from Winnipeg. So that's the. If you ever want to go cross border shoplifting, that's where you go.
Shoplifting?
Cross-border shoplifting? You ever heard of that?
No.
Oh my God, they were doing a scam once upon a time. This was actually genius, and I don't endorse this at all, but you have to respect the genius of it. They were getting drugs over the border through that pipeline. So what they do, a lot of shopping happens depending on how the Canadian and American dollar are going, and so they would go to big box stores, these drug dealers or these drug traffickers, and they would find plates that were on the other side of the border, right? So what they'd do is they would go they would wait for you to pull in. They say, all right, they're in. They would go and tape a whole bunch of drugs to the bottom of your vehicle, and then they would follow you over the border. So when you're going through, you're like, oh, yeah, I just got a few shopping things, claiming this. And they're like, all right, have a great day. And then the next people go through, yep, just going through to the border, nothing on, you want to check the vehicle, sure. They follow you through. Once you get through the border clean, then they go, and once you parked again, they take all the drugs off the bottom of the vehicle.
Work smarter,
away
not
they
harder.
go. Right? I mean, again, I don't endorse it, but it's pretty smart.
And it works. It
worked for a while, yeah. It worked for a while.
No, it's changed the technology a little bit. Mm-hmm. But people are going to ask why Grand Forks. So you can't take the rental car from the U.S. over the border.
Right.
So Grand Forks was as close as I could get where there was an actual location to drop the car off. Mm-hmm. And then so I stopped there for the night, and then the next day my mom came down and picked me up. And it was nice to see my mom for the first time in 4 months, and then she drove me all the way over the border. And then I got to see the beautiful Winnipeg skyline. I will say this too, though, a little bit off topic, and there'll be a video on the video version of the show. The Winnipeg skyline, Winnipeg as a city is beautiful from the right angles. When it's dark and you can't see the brownness of the Red River or all the stabbings going on by Euclid or by Gordon Bell High School, it's actually not too bad.
It's funny you say that. I took my kids up to a spot in Winnipeg that was the old dump, and then they closed it down and let it grow over. Now it's a dog park, off-leash dog park, and a lot of people use it for jogging and whatnot because it basically spirals all the way up. When you get up to the top of that hill, you can actually see a great view of the skyline. And I would put it up against a St. Louis or maybe around 1 million people somewhere in the Midwest. And it's a good looking skyline. We got some good buildings. Good buildings here.
Garbage Hill.
Solid. Garbage Hill.
Yeah. Some of the architecture, like the Fort Garry Hotel, the Fairmont Hotel, the TD building, the pissing contest between there and the Richardson building,
the Canadian Canadian Museum for Human Rights.
Yeah, it's supposed to be shaped like a goose or a swan. Is the building design apparently?
Of what?
Like the museum,
Human Rights Museum?
Yeah, they were trying to make it look like a swan.
No, trying to make it look like a cloud.
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
Oh. I went on a date one time, and the lady told me that. I was like, all right, I'll just tell everybody else that, I guess now. She's like, did you know?
Did you also know that the Esplanade Riel is actually Canada's nuclear defense launcher?
No.
No, it's not. I can also tell you oceanfront property in Saskatchewan.
Okay, why don't we fact check this real quick? So I remember, her and I were, this is like years ago, by the way. Her and I were going on this date. We're having coffee, walking through the Forks. And she's like, did you know they imported glass from Germany just for this building? And it's shaped like a swan. And I said, no shit. And then I told everybody else that.
Ah, San Diego.
A whale's vagina. On the topic of the road trip, though, of all the places I passed, and I'll put, again, video on the video version of the show, Uranus, Missouri.
Oh, my God.
So
yeah.
In Uranus, Missouri, they have a fudge factory. They actually make fudge. And they have apparel and, like, merchandise. And some of the apparel, I Heart Uranus in Uranus, Missouri.
I got my fudge packed in Uranus. Oh, yeah, the jokes are endless.
Yeah, the best fudge comes from Uranus or Uranus Trucking Company, dropping loads in Uranus since 2015. Sink your balls into our putt hole. Putt Pirates Mini Golf Course in Uranus.
Oh, man, this is
an actual website, by the way. Oh, how about this? Uranus Concrete. And it's just like them dumping concrete in Uranus.
It reminds me of all the memes before the internet when Dildo Newfoundland went through the same thing.
Oh, Dildo Newfoundland.
There is a spot in Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada called Dildo Newfoundland, boy. You make sure you keep your words healthy around them Newfies.
Is that my Mississippi accent?
Come by chance, Newfoundland as well. Lord Hunter D's boy.
I got another one here for you. The Uranus Liquor Store. Poker in the front, liquor in the rear. Uranus Liqueurs. How about this one? The Uranus Pickers Reach Around America Tour.
You know who loves diving in Uranus?
Who?
Greg Louganis.
I don't know who that is.
He's an old professional diver.
If you want to look, obviously we're not going to read every single one of them, but
swimmer.
UranusGeneralStore.com. They got some really, really interesting apparel. Shout out to Uranus, Missouri. God bless that place.
You know what they call the people that have lived in Uranus their whole lives?
What?
Klingons. They cling on to Uranus. Yeah. Oh, it's endless. It's endless.
I had an ex-girlfriend. I used to call her that. We're not together anymore.
Listen, it's low-hanging fruit, but darn it, sometimes the low-hanging fruit is the sweetest.
Is that a Dingleberry reference?
No, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe they have one of those in Uranus.
Why don't we take a little ad break? How about the Patreon page? We'll get to more of the being released Mississippi talk in a second. But if you want to support the page and support the podcast moving forward, the Patreon page is where it's at. So you can join for $5 a month, and that will get you access to my Collector Series trading cards from Motor City, Varberg, the Collector Series, the regular printed. And
that frame's going to get bigger, by the way.
There's going to be more cards. I was actually thinking about it the other day. I was like, we need to make some more cards for Mississippi, Watertown, and maybe another Motor City card. But you get that for $5 a month. You join for $20 a month. You're going to get the Slangin The Bizkit mug, Slangin The Bizkit sweater, and some other perks as well, including the Patreon members Q&A, which you can submit questions, which we'll answer at the end of the show. And again, it supports the podcast, keeps us going. We had a bunch of new signups last week, so if you signed up last week, thank you so much. And it's a great way to support us. There's a link in the YouTube video version of the show to support us, and the Apple Podcasting, Spotify notes.
If you can actually do me a favor and get on at least 20 other teams so we can get pictures of you in those jerseys on the ice, I'm going to start my own card game like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, and it's going to be called Ridgen. And depending on which team and whatnot, they'll have different points on the back, and yeah, it'll be a full RPG game. It's going to be great.
Collect them all.
Gotta stop them all.
Somebody made that comment the other week. Somebody needs to tell Trav, playing the Fed's not a Pokemon game. You don't got to collect them all. Just pick a team and stay there.
Whoever made that comment, we're gonna make the card game together.
Trav is on a mission to wear every single jersey in the FPHL before the team folds. Which every single team, it seems half the league folds every 5 years. But half the team or half the league right now will be gone in 5 years. So Travis is on a mission to try to wear every jersey before they fold.
Well, listen, every league goes through that. I mean, the National League, the NBA, even the National Football League has gone through that. So, I mean, the Fed is no different. They just do it with different dollar signs behind it. That's all.
But just a reminder, if you want to sign up for the Patreon page, there is a link in the video description to do that and support the show. I did want to make one more comment. You've heard of Kazimir Kaskasu?
No.
Him and I are both unemployed now. We'll work for Saves. We're competing in the job market now.
Okay.
He's a former SHL, American League, NHL goalie who he's got no team. He's making YouTube videos unemployed. I guess I'll be going on the same path shortly. But I would like to say one thing. I would really love to go back and play in Port Huron.
Why?
My time was very memorable down there. All 45 minutes.
When your name on the sheet showed up, it really felt good, that ink down on the paper?
I will say this. This probably has to be an FPHL record, though, for the shortest amount of time spent with the team. I'd be curious for somebody to fact-check that, because that literally was 45 minutes on and off the roster. That has to be the shortest stint for the team. I have to hold that record. One record, at least, that I have. Well, maybe that and highest GAA.
That's a possibility, too. Yeah, listen, if you're going to get a Guinness World Record or get on the wheat sheet in the halls of the Federal Prospects Hockey League, yeah. Get in there any way you can, man.
Well, I played 2 games in Motor City, 1 in Watertown, 1 in Mississippi. I guess we can put Wytheville, Port Huron, and Columbus in there, too.
There you go.
I signed contracts with all...
Not with Port Huron. Your contract was traded there.
Yeah, so I signed a contract in Columbus. They asked me. My rights and my contract was inherited by Wytheville, traded me to Watertown, and then Watertown traded to Port Huron. So 4 games, 6 teams?
It's impressive.
It's not bad.
That's impressive. I'll tell you, if you were a dating man, those would be pretty good odds.
I'd be closing at a very high percentage.
Travis basically speed dated through the FPHL. That's what he did. Yeah.
Somebody did ask in the comment section to talk briefly about streaming numbers, because in Motor City, it was very evident when I was there and when I left.
Like we're talking about the Federal League streaming numbers?
Yeah. On
not this podcast.
No,
okay.
No, in the actual Fed. So, like, when I was in Motor City, I remember the season opening game, there was like 10, 12,000 people that tuned into it. The game versus Watertown when I came in, that was the highest viewed game for Watertown by far and by Motor City by far. But then when I left for my hip surgery, all the numbers went down. And I even saw the commentator for Motor City, Ben Zalagi. He's a good guy, by the way. I haven't talked to him in a little bit. But he left a comment the other day on the Motor City broadcast talking about how the ghost of Trav has been following us around all season. I'm not even there. People are asking and whatnot. So...
well, listen, it's kind of like the PGA Tour, and Tiger Woods just this past weekend played in the Hero World Challenge, which is happening in Bermuda, and it was his first tournament back since April, so when he played in the Masters last year. But guess what? Every opportunity they get, they're going to mention Tiger Woods' names, because guess what? He brings in the ratings. When Tiger Woods is on the course, they're going to turn the cameras towards him, which means people are going to watch. So if you have an opportunity to mention a name that is very popular and people, like, even a mention of it, people's ears perk up because they knew that they watched Once Upon a Time for that reason, and hopefully you can give them an opportunity to tune back in again. And it's interesting to me that, and again, I'm not the commissioner of the Federal League. I do not work in the business side. I'm not a manager. I don't get any of that. I know how to talk behind a microphone, and I do that pretty well. But it's baffling to me that the league wouldn't, try everything they possibly could to find you another team just because of those reasons.
Well, and it's not like I suck. Like we've talked about this before. If you look at if you talk to anybody who actually understands goaltending, not somebody who's telling me, hey, play top of the paint, because that makes sense because goaltending is in the 1980s at the top of the paint. If you talk to somebody who understands goaltending, I don't suck. I'm actually a very good FPHL caliber goaltender. I just haven't found the right team to give me the right opportunity to play a streak of games. You give me 3, 4, 5 games in a row and you give me 10 starts over the season, I'm ready to roll. I'll be playing. I'll be ready, synced up with the defensive structure and with the D-man. That's a big thing, too, is getting on the same page with the D-man. And also to like the ratings that we talked about, like Motor City is a perfect example. The ratings went right in the shit the second I went away for my hip surgery. And the commentator, Ben Zalagi, talking about how the ghost of Travis followed us around all season long. In Watertown, a lot of people are tuning in to see if I'm actually going to start any games and to keep me not even starting, but put me in the stands. Like, what a wasted opportunity for the team to make money on that. And then Mississippi as well. You know, Joe Pace was telling me, we're sitting down having a power raid in the in the lounging area, like outside the dressing room, and he's like, dude, like people just keep messaging the Seawolves Instagram account. Is Travis starting? Where's Trav? It's like people want to see the circus. People are curious behind this, and for a team that again cares about putting asses in the seats to say we're going to let you go, it doesn't make really much sense.
And again, maybe those decisions are made, way above your pay level, obviously, and maybe they have a plan in mind. Who knows? Who knows what they actually want or what they actually need or what those variables are to come to that.
If I could for 1 second, though, I do want to say, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this and I'm very clear. I'm very thankful for the opportunity that Joe Pace and the Seawolves gave me. They got me out of a very bad situation in Watertown that I was not happy in. And Joe gave me an opportunity, gave me a start less than 24 hours into being with the team. I got more Seawolves merchandise than I think I got in Motor City, and I was only with the Seawolves for like 2 weeks. They cut me $1,000 U.S. check to take care of these rental cars for me to go home, or come there and go home. Like, I have nothing but positive things to say about my experience outside of they released me. And again, this is the first time I've been released, and I have better things to say about the guy that released me than anybody else that I've worked for previously. So to Joe Pace, thank you. I hope that there was an opportunity that presents itself to play for the Seawolves again, because I would love to play in Biloxi again if something happened. And to any other FPHL team, I would love to play. If I haven't played for you, I would love to play for you and bring some ratings and bring some saves ultimately too, because I am a glue guy. I know my role. I'm not an idiot.
And whether it happens or not, I know you met a lot of great people along the way, and we've mentioned them on this podcast before. But everyone from the equipment people to the play-by-play guys and some of your teammates and whatnot. So it's all a journey, man. And you know what, my wife says this every once in a while. It reminds me. Some people are in your life. Some people are in your life for a moment, a season, or a reason.
I think the third, for a reason. And I keep talking about this, but it's funny how God works in certain ways. Like, I've been trying to tell myself, because this makes it easier to deal with, God is challenging me. God is testing me. God had me released by the Seawolves to see what I'm made of. Will I fall? Will I crumble? I've been talking about what kind of man are you? What kind of integrity do you have? Can you go to the gym? Can you show up? Can you do the right things when things aren't going your way? It's easy when things are going well. When everything's in the shitter, then it's really hard. So again, you talk the talk. Let's see what you're made of. Let's see how you do things. And maybe this is setting me up for the next opportunity, right? The world and the universe has a funny way of setting up little tests, right, as life goes on. And the test, if you don't pass it the first time, and you may not even know that you had a test, it's a little bit harder, maybe it hurts more when you fail that test, and then it really blows up, right? It's funny how it sets you up for that type of stuff. So
listen, there's millions of quotes that can cover exactly what you're going through, everything from, God doesn't put challenges in front of you that he knows you can't handle. But the one that I've really been hanging on to lately is no good story. You can't have a good story without a good character. And you can only build character through going through the weeds sometimes.
And let's be honest, would this podcast be interesting if everything went smooth? If I got signed, I'm playing games, things are going all right, we're winning, we're losing, there's nothing exciting happening. Would anybody listen to this podcast? Probably not.
Listen, if you've ever lived in an apartment, if anyone's ever lived in a low-end apartment with really thin walls like I have, nobody holds a glass up to a wall to hear people getting along.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? So, it's always the drama. There's a reason why these trashy reality shows like The Real Housewives and whatnot, there's a reason why they do well in the ratings. People want to see drama. There's a reason why that people go and watch Gordon Ramsay over Emeril Lagasse, because someone's yelling and getting called an idiot sandwich every 5 minutes on the show. You know what I mean? So you're bringing the drama. Whether you're asking for it or not, you're bringing the drama. I
was talking to Kirk Allen, the Warrior rep, the other day. So we're putting a new order for just like all white gear tomorrow to get rid of all the Watertown gear, because I don't need any more wolves on my equipment for the time being. But him and I were talking about like what a story it would be to go from, again, Motor City, Wytheville, Watertown Port here on Mississippi, released out of the Fed, and then I went to Europe to finish the season. Like, wouldn't that be a story for the vlog and for this podcast?
Great story. And I think people love seeing that. They're kind of like, oh, all right, I gotta get my nap in before I watch the latest vlogs. I know it's going to be a trip.
Well, and to the people that have, maybe been a little vocal in the comment section, hey, it's time to retire, man. I'm not retiring. Don't worry.
I ain't going anywhere. They're going to have to drag me out of here.
You need a wrecking ball to take me out.
You're Leo DiCaprio, man. That's it. That's you.
Oh, what a movie! I love Wolf of Wall Street. You jerk off? Yeah. 2-3 times a week. Those rookie numbers, need to get them up. You got to do it 2-3 times a day, just thinking about money. Revolutions.
Thinking about getting a start somewhere.
You don't want to implode, do you? Implode? No, sir. No, you don't want to implode.
Listen, before you take your new profile picture, make sure you get your beard all trimmed up and everything. All right, starting to look a little bushy after the road trip.
You will implode if you do not take care of your beard, which is why the team at Manscaped.com is the second sponsor for the show. The Manscaped Beard Hedger, it has 20 different lengths. It has a 60-minute battery life, and it is waterproof as well. It is how I taper up my beard. You see this fade? What do you think of this fade I got going on right now, Dave?
Slick.
It's crispy. Eh? I've been watching YouTube tutorial videos.
It looks salon ready, is what it looks.
I've been watching these tutorial videos on YouTube teaching me how to fade for dummies and how to get it to look this way. So God bless YouTube University, which I know you've
absolutely
you've harped on that for me for.
Listen, I'm still studying on how to be a better husband. Yeah.
So sometimes you just can't learn how to.
I think at one point, whenever this life or whatever this game we are that we're playing, I hope that there is a room with somebody sitting at a table and you get to sit down and go, all right, anything you want to know about what you just went through, anything that confused you, all the answers right now.
Well, the answer would have started with Manscaped.com. And if you go to the link in the video description, because God would want that. God would want you to buy a Manscaped Lawnmower 5 and the Beard Hedger with the code BIZKIT. BIZKIT. I actually don't know if God wants it. He may actually be.
Well, his son had a beard. As far as we know.
Yeah, Jesus used the beard hedger.
Yeah.
That's not an actual endorsement. Jesus did not use a beard hedger, nor did God. But if you go to the link in the video description, code BIZKIT, 20% off, free shipping. Same with the Apple and Spotify podcast notes. Support the show. Thank you to the team at Manscaped for sponsoring the show, as they always do. Notes. I did have 3 shout-outs to give. One, Anthony, our equipment manager in Mississippi. He is such a good guy. He loved you more than me, actually. So to Anthony.
He's only human.
He was actually the one that was holding the camera, kind of giving me some behind-the-scenes shots of warm-ups and whatnot. So
cool.
Shout out to you, buddy. Also, I did give a shout-out to the Donut Daddy. She knows exactly who she is. She bought me a 12-pack of donuts and said, I want nothing for this outside of a shout-out on the podcast. And I said, Daddy, you got it. So I gave her this shout-out for her. Also,
where's my donuts?
Shout-out to TatoNut Donuts in Biloxi, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I heard how world-famous they were. And they definitely lived up to the hype. They were fantastic. They have a Katrina donut. It's basically a square donut dipped in chocolate, icing, or like maple spread or something. Anyway, I'll put video on the video version of the show. You'll see after, Dave. They're fantastic. Incredible donuts. World famous on Food Network.
They call it the Katrina donut?
The Katrina, because it is a mess in your mouth.
Wow.
Is that insensitive or genius? I think it's genius.
You decide. I'd like to hear down in the comments what your thoughts are.
I would be too, but show it to them. Oh, can I tell the gun story or no?
Save it for next week. Save the gun show for next week.
Okay, we'll save that for next week. But
maybe a Patreon exclusive for that one.
Yeah, she was waving the gun on my face. Anyway, never a dull moment in Biloxi. Listen, in the words of Alan Jackson, I was there for a very good time, not a long time, and it was a 2 weeks well done in Mississippi. But we have a Patreon Q&A. This is part of one of the perks of being a Patreon member. We have a couple questions. First off, and let me just bring this closer because I can't see without my glasses on here because I'm a nerd. Rich Silva, former member of the U.S. military. Shout out to you, buddy. He's a Patreon member. He's an awesome guy. Met him in Detroit last year. He says, are you planning on playing Sweden anytime soon? Also, how is the ankle doing? Did you end up getting Dave that hat from Motor City you promised?
No, you did not. But that's okay. I wouldn't wear it anyways.
I sent it to a female. I think I repoed that hat back, actually. I should give it to you. I think it's in my mom somewhere.
I'll take it.
All right, I'll put it on the to-do list coming up. But Sweden, first team to want to sign, done deal. How is the ankle doing? So the x-ray came back negative like we talked about on my ankle, but something still feels off. I don't know quite what it is. My surgeon did say it's a byproduct of the hip surgery.
Could be.
Because all the stress going through the hip now, it can handle it, so it's got to go somewhere else. And the ankle, from what I'm told, is the weakest link in the fence. So that would make sense. But everything else, like performance-wise, I'm feeling good. It's just kind of like bothering me. I just put some creams on it. It's good to go. Nathan Richards, says, what do you think of people buying and trading game-worn jerseys? Do you think it's worth the money and or the investment? Well, I mean, the lady who put $700 up for my jersey in Watertown definitely thought it was. Shout out to Cheryl Allen, by the way.
I'll be honest with you, coming from a guy who used to collect them and watch them all go out the door for charity, it all comes down to, is it worth it for you? Like, do you feel that jersey is going to enhance your pool room downstairs or your rec room or wherever it may be? Is it going to improve your life? Then the answer is yes. If it's just going to end up in a closet somewhere hanging up, like my father did with that autographed Steve Yzerman jersey that he's had for about the past 20 some odd years, thinking that I was going to get it for Christmas one year. Nope, because he's a Montreal Canadian fan and refuses to let me have it. Then probably not worth it.
I'm sensing a little bit of sourness.
Well, maybe he is getting his money's worth out of it because he's doing it solely out of spite.
Speaking of spite, if anybody has my Motor City jersey that has purchased it, or my Mississippi Seawolves jersey whenever it's available for purchase, or my Watertown jersey, if you have it, please send me a message because I would like to buy it off you. So again, Watertown, Mississippi, Motor City. If you got that jersey, send me a message. I'd like to buy it, just for the record. Also, remember the guy in Elmira who forgot the jerseys last year?
Yeah.
In Motor City?
Yeah. Had to wear the roller hockey team jerseys.
Yes. So the Elmira Mammoth. So this will be the last thing we talk about for today. But so shout out to Mackie. I met him in Columbus outside after the game against the River Dragons. He was wearing the Elmira Mammoth jersey too. So he was the equipment manager, and or I guess he was in charge of the jerseys. And so I asked him. I said, "Dude, I got to ask you, what happened with the jerseys?" And he's like, "Well, I think me and the guy who were in charge of the jerseys may hit the weed pen a little bit too hard, I believe." And hold on. When do you think that they realized that they forgot the jerseys?
Oh, about halfway through.
No, they realized it at the rink when they got to Motor City. They're like, "Where are the jerseys?"
Oh,
shit!
No. Well, hey, luckily there's always a roller hockey team nearby
in Fraser. But you see, in the East Coast, the Toledo Walleye, they forgot their jerseys too. So
yep.
They played with the Kalamazoo Wings, or was it the other way around? Was Kalamazoo playing with Toledo's jerseys? I can't remember. Somebody was playing with somebody's practice jerseys. Versus the game jerseys. And we'll put a video in the video version of the show. So, Tamaki, don't worry. Happens in the East Coast as well.
Got to get it done.
Happens to the best of us. We all forget our game set of jerseys sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's okay, buddy. So that was that. That's all the questions for the Patreon Q&A. So if you have a question you want to submit on the Patreon page when you sign up, there's a tab. Submit your questions. We'll get them in for the next week's episode. Maybe we'll do it in person. I was really hoping we weren't going to be doing this until like April in person, maybe May, but... For the time being, I will be here, and we will be doing in-person episodes. I will read the weather for you soon too.
And you're going to be skating here in Winnipeg while you're here, so you're not going to let the rest accumulate.
Yeah, I just skated today for the first time in a week, which is good to kind of get the boots back on the ice. Working with Brant Hilden at Evolution Hockey, kind of doing some goalie session stuff. So whenever a team picks me up, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready. I will work for my saves, and I can go back on the employment list and getting money on those prepaid Visa gift cards, which the league cannot drain, which I learned recently. They cannot take money out of the account, only put it in.
And tune in next week. Travis will be wearing a blazer, and maybe I will. You never know.
All right, maybe I'll wear a wife beater, like Milan Lucic.
Okay.
Did you hear Milan Lucic maybe signing with the Binghamton Black Bears soon? I had to get it in. So that's the podcast for this week. So if you enjoyed this show, it's available on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. That is 10 in Winnipeg, 9 in Calgary, 8 in the West Coast, in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. If you're on the Apple Spotify version, leave a review. We would love to hear from you. Leave a 5-star review if you think we deserve that. If you're on the YouTube version, leave a comment. Dave and I chat you up in the comment section every single week. Until next time, I'm Travis Ridgen, the former goaltender in the FPHL for too many teams that we can't list at this point in time. Across from me is Dave Wheeler. He hosts the #1 morning radio show in the city of Winnipeg, has for 20-plus years, right here on Energy 106. We will see you here next week for the next episode of the podcast. Thanks for listening.